Thank you all for coming. We are complete. Again, apologies for absence, obviously none. Disclosure of interests, none. Public questions.
Yeah. Some of the questions relate to the minutes that have been put forward for approval. One lot are actually from the 27th of June. So there's a question over why it's taken so long to actually publish minutes, which are supposed to be published within a month of a meeting. So these minutes are over 3 months old.
The first version did come out quite a while ago. I can't put a date on it, but I saw a copy of it a long time ago.
Right, well. So within the minutes of the 27th of June, item 53, which is to do with the internal auditor's report. So item 53A, there's a section in there where we agreed to make an action plan immediately based on the Parish Council's responses to the report. So my question is, since June, is there an immediate action plan being produced, as it's now 3 months later? No, I haven't seen any action plan, and it's now October.
The question is the minutes. The minutes are accurate. We will take note of your comment.
Right. So item 53B in those minutes refers to the working group on policy review. I was just wondering what policies have been reviewed since June 2022.
We've had it since then, but we started on, we started on well, no, the finance ones and the HR ones that we raised with to do with the contracts.
Yes.
When we met with Richard. So we have raised. Yeah. So to answer your question, we started looking at the human resource policies that we need in connection with the new contracts. So we're looking at updating all of those, and we've also started looking at the finance ones.
Okay. 53C refers to the code of conduct, which we're looking at the whether you needed any amendments to your own code of conduct. So I was just wondering, since June, has any work been done on that?
We did talk about that as well, and it said what did we say?
There's 2 appendices and then a further one. We're going to group them as more clearly as 3 appendices.
53D is reference to the recreation field group. The question is, when was the last rec field meeting? Because there's minutes for March and April. For March, draft minutes for March. There's no minutes at all for April and May, and I believe the July meeting was cancelled.
The July meeting was cancelled and the September meeting was cancelled.
September was the HRA.
July was cancelled because it wasn't a core rate, and September was cancelled because we couldn't put the agenda out because of the 10 days following the Queen's death. So the next one's due to happen on the 3rd Thursday this month, so like 2.5 weeks' time.
Right. Item 53E relates to the employees' contracts. Within that paragraph, there's references, when we question where are the draft contracts referred to in there, and who is the HR specialist engaged by Felton Parish Council? Where's the review document carried out by the HR specialist, and when will FPC be discussing it?
It's a work in progress. You will see the results.
Right, F53F relates, I'll read what was in that particular one. The Parish Council noted the bridge printer is no longer listed as a current asset of the Parish Council. the cost to the parish council is net zero. So, according to your own published accounts in 2018-19, FPC purchased using FPC funds a £6,000 business print publishing machine, which was entered on your asset register with a value of £6,000. 2 years later, in 2021-22, FPC disposed of this unlawfully purchased £6,000 asset in return for £1,000 from the bridge, resulting in a drop in asset value of £5,000 in the FPC accounts. That's a £5,000 loss of FPC assets, not a zero loss.
Well, it's not, because as you've already argued that it shouldn't have been owned by us in the first place, so which are you arguing?
I'm not arguing about anything. I'm quoting.
Are you asking? Are you making a statement?
Well, I'm referring to the minute that's been written, and then I'm referring to your own accounts, how you account for it, and you've put a thing in there, the cost of the parish council is net zero, whereas in actual fact, the actual asset register has gone down by £5,000. That's your accounts, not mine.
It must have gone up by 5,000 in the first instance.
So it's net zero.
The internal auditor is quite happy.
Right. So that completes that one. So you've got a second lot of minutes for the 5th of September. First item on it, you've got an item on here called item 79, and it says public participation. There wasn't any public questions on that agenda. So I don't know how it can be appearing as public participation on your minutes.
What?
Have you got the right one then?
On the 5th of September?
Yeah, 5th of September.
We did have those, that's what we said about last
I
time.
think it was on maybe on the other one.
It was on the other meeting. The other
Was it?
minutes at
Yeah, it was on the
7.
draft, one of the June ones.
We did have,
Right, apologies, and that's mixed up. Okay, so on the 5th of September, I put forward 3 questions to be answered. The minutes only refer to question 2. So, I'm just wondering where my question 1 and 3 have gone. They're not in the minutes.
Offhand, no idea.
Right, okay. During that meeting, Claire read out an extract from the external auditor's report. Within that, they made a statement that no other matters have come to our attention given cause for concern that relevant legislation and regulatory requirements have not been met. Obviously, I don't agree with that statement. So my question is, bear in mind what's just happened recently with the resignation of Councillor Hood, and that's still yet to be uncovered what's going on there. Can the RFO and current councillors confirm they still believe the statement made by the external auditor to be true, that there's nothing of concern being brought to the attention of...
Not aware of any evidence of conflict.
Okay. Just regarding the Felton Surgery, you've resolved to write to the Lindisfarne group and various questions you were going to put to them, and also with the council for the S106 money. The question is, have you written to the Lindisfarne group and NCC, and if so, what was the response?
yeah.
No.
Lindisfarne Group, no response, and I sent it to 4 different email addresses and by post to 2 postal addresses. So it's definitely reached somebody, but no responses. Section 106, Bellway have agreed to extend the deadline. I've asked what the new deadline would be, and haven't had definite answer on that, but it's now jumping through various procedural hoops. I believe that the current stage is that it has to be signed off by the planning committee, which will happen at the next planning committee meeting, whatever that is. So it seems like it's agreed, but has to jump through a number of procedural hoops from what she said.
Okay. Right, that's it.
I've got two. Item 14, been ongoing on the agenda since the 5th of 21, although it was 2 months before that when I asked about the benches at the front, and they're still not painted, and they were going to be done in time for the Jubilee. Are they going to be done in time for the coronation? Or would you like me to find somebody in a court to paint them?
Oh, brilliant, yeah.
Because the guy who's painting the hall at the moment will probably do that.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, right, I'll ask her tonight.
Thank you.
And the other one is, I noticed item 15, which is the real reason I'm here tonight, was about flag casting on the wreck. I was a bit interested in how it came to appear on the Parish Council agenda so quickly, considering most things take ages to appear on the agenda. This activity was organised by me. My email address was on the advertising, as well as a telephone number for contact. No one had attempted to speak to me about it, so the first I knew was when someone told me it was on the agenda. So basically, I'm a bit confused because it was open to all, at no cost, being run by a well-known local fly fisherman. Totally risk, I've done a full risk assessment. The greatest risk was people being cold, standing around. There was no hook on the end of the line, so there's, it wasn't like we were going to hook a child on the way home from school or anything. So I'm kind of concerned at why this is an issue. There's nothing anywhere that I can see written down that says you have to hook. Yes?
We are curious ourselves.
Right.
We are not perceiving it as an issue.
Right, okay. So why was it an agenda item?
I don't know.
Well, I assume it's because the council's responsible for the rec field.
But every time someone does something on the rec field, you're not always aware of it. I mean, WI regularly do they do pool and they do croquet, and that's never been discussed. The children play football, people go over and do lots of other activities. We walk their dog.
We haven't even got to the point of the agenda. Is it because of the overhead power cables?
No, all we know at the moment apparently is another member of the WI committee.
WI committee?
No. Oh,
I put it on.
Oh, you put it on.
I
right.
put it on.
I think
Because a number of people expressed concern that there was the opportunity for some, mishap, given it's out with the normal run of activities that we would normally have on the recreation field. And it was just that normally, if people are using the recreation field for something that is out with a normal recreation facility, such as football or children's play or something like that, they just run it past us because we have, as Richard says, liability for anything that might happen on the field. And it was just a case of, I'm sure everybody agrees that we haven't got a problem with it happening.
Right.
It would just be good for us to be able to be alert to it as an event.
So is there a policy then? Do you have a policy that is the case for the people users? So
Because I couldn't find a policy anywhere in any document that I
I think it's more common sense than a policy.
well,
If I was going to do something on somebody else's land, I'd probably
is it a
let
recreation
somebody
field?
responsible know in advance.
I
That's all.
don't think there's any reason to get upset about it or anything. I think it was put on there for discussion. I don't think anyone's saying that you're not to do
It
it.
was
I
not
understood
clear.
when I asked this was on the agenda, I had understood it was just simply to bring it to the attention of the council so that it's in the minutes that we've said we're aware of the activity, and then so that Anne could ask any questions or concerns about insurance or anything like that could be asked and dealt with. I don't think it was that there was not permission, it was a permissions point at all.
But maybe it's at this point then where policy needs to be written, because every group is, is inundated writing policies now that says something along the line, if you're using it for anything outside of A, B and C, please ask permission. Because to me, they're saying if the land belongs to somebody else, but it's a community asset and things happen all the time on
It
the
is,
road.
but we are liable for it, and I think it is worth discussing. I mean, there's got the big signs that when you go down onto under the woods and things about the overhead power cables.
Yes.
That would be my only concern about it. But I think, it was worth bringing it up. I think, unless we've got any issues, then it's not going to be a problem. But I definitely don't think it's worth getting upset or stressed about it or anything.
No, I just couldn't understand why it had actually even got as far as
Okay.
as this.
'Cause, I mean, other users, you've got people playing golf down there.
Yes.
You've got drone users down there. You have
People flying kites.
people flying kites
Yes,
down there.
that's a good point.
So there are lots of usage. So
Okay.
Yeah, what's in croquet and
yeah, you
ball,
haven't seen the
really?
croquet and the pool, yes.
The only concern I would say would be to remind you there are 20,000 volt cables.
Yes, I'm perfectly aware of
I
them.
imagine you are, but
Yeah.
we will have it.
Yeah.
So
Probably
we
could
take
tell
that
where
off
they
the
went from
agenda
and
then.
to.
That's right.
So there will be no policy document, and you are insured for all of these things. So just so we're clear.
I would think there is.
We're not
we do
insured,
have-
we are not insured for activities that other people carry out on the field, so it would need to be covered under the WI insurance.
Which it would be.
Which I would assume
Which it would be anyway,
That's what I
even without
figured,
that.
yeah.
People
But then
cover
other
them, yes.
activities wouldn't, you mean,
Yeah.
in that case?
Yeah, well,
so
exactly.
like the drones
people
and the
going,
kite.
people going down and popping down and doing their five-a-side football or things, they're not an organised activity in the same way, are they?
In terms of risk assessment, we do have a general risk assessment policy for activities.
Yeah, well, I say I did a risk
Yeah.
assessment anyway for the day, made sure my mobile phone worked down there, all the usual things.
It is quite a novel one for the rec field.
Yeah, but both the WI and I'm a trustee of the village hall, we are trying to introduce activities in the village that broaden people's perception of what is available. That's basically where it comes to. So if somebody comes up with an idea of what they might like to do, either the village hall or the WI or anything else, we'll try and do it.
All for it, okay? Sorted?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Craig, got anything?
No, thank you.
Okay. Right, minutes of previous meetings, 27th June. Everybody happy with those? Yep.
I only got to decide, because I've been to decide that my computer was struggling, but we will continue tomorrow.
5th September. Everybody happy? I am.
Sorry, yeah.
Thank you. Finance, receive financial summary and budget monitoring for 30th September, page 9 to 12.
I don't know why it's printed out so small, so. I don't know why it's done it like this. So the most exciting thing is the second amount of the precept has come in, so that's a big chunk of money. Top of all the pots.
The allotment, anticipated the budget, when do the allotment holders normally pay?
So earlier in the year, on my list.
Just a little nudge.
Yes, mine is mine on my list.
Any comments on?
What was the £65 donation for?
From the cemetery, it was a donation of the cemetery side of things, and it towards a new bench. Yeah.
Everybody happy? Authorised payments. 2, staff salaries, expenses, and Yes, more. Can I have approval, please? All those in favour? Thank you. Felton Surgery.
Okay, so, the transfer to us should be completed any day. They were just waiting on, they were doing some sort of priority search, but everything's signed and in the solicitor's hands. As I say, we haven't had any response to the letter that I sent to the Lindisfarne group. That went out by email to the managing partners listed for the Lindisfarne group and the managing partners listed for Felton Widrington. And by post, I put it in, hand-delivered it to Felton, and I posted it to the Berwick practice, which is where the Lindisfarne group's head office is. No response. Section 106 is hopefully being extended, so that gives us a bit more space. I had a query in about, from one of the parties involved, about progress about the surgery, so I dealt with that. And I've tried to speak to Jamie Mitchell at CCG. I left a message. The person I spoke to said that they didn't think anything, they weren't aware of anything new, but they would ask him to ring me back. I'm still waiting on a call back. He's been busy in meetings. So nothing really to report, unfortunately.
Frustrating.
Yes.
And we did ask Councillor Thornton to pursue this, didn't we?
Yeah.
Has he been active
I don't know.
or been seen?
But he was, I mean, I think he's aware of all of
That.
this, sorry, I think he's aware of all of the section 106 stuff, and because I know he was copied in at various points, and he'll be involved with the, I would have thought, if that's going through the planning process next, I believe he's still part of the planning area committee
He's
meetings.
I think he's the chief function.
So hopefully, I mean, you know, he's aware that he'll be aware of that application
Yeah.
group or whatever it is coming through past him.
But the main hold-up is getting either Widrington and Felton practice or the wider Lindisfarne group practice
Some sort of
to engage.
yes.
That's
Oh, well,
all.
sure. I mean, this, so I asked, so if you remember, there's two legal documents involved. There was the transfer of the land,
Yeah.
Bellway to ourselves, which is all dealt with pretty much. We're just waiting for them to actually complete it. And then the second one was the lease between, you know, the long-term lease between ourselves and Assura to lease the land to them so they could build a property on it. And that's still on hold because our solicitor said that, you know, they have been, that was the point where we got told by Assura to just put work on hold because everything was being stopped. And the latest update from the solicitor was just that you know, they're chasing, they're asking the questions. Apparently, Assura is still looking at the viability of the project, which is the answer we got some time ago from them. I think that came from
confirmed.
the PPG. So I just think there's a hold up somewhere, and it's difficult to identify whether it's Assura or the surgery or a bit of both.
PPG have been trying to organise a meeting with Dr. Lees, and because she's on the sick, she's not able to do that. She's not willing for anyone else to organise a meeting. So the PPG have that for quite a while.
In other words, we're in limbo. Right.
But there must be somebody somewhere who's responsible for ensuring that proper GP services are provided.
But they are still providing them at the moment, so until, but I think what we were told previously was that until they don't almost take any sort of anticipatory action, so they basically wait till services, that's the impression I got, that nothing will happen to her contract until she fails to provide the services. And if she's
Right.
providing them out of Widrington, that's potentially good enough. I think is that what you say, that's what we sort of...
The critical one, as I understand it, is that the dispensary here keeps running. If that stops, they lose their licence.
Because I know a large amount of people from Felton were at Wickington on Saturday to get their flu and COVID infection. He being one of them.
And I will be sorted.
Yes. So they are still providing a service.
Yes.
Do we know if they managed to renew their lease?
Nope.
There was, a couple of meetings ago, we were talking about the fact.
Well,
Yeah, it was a bit-
I mentioned that in the letter to them, and I also mentioned it, I passed that information on, so the current owners, current landlords have seen a copy of the letter that went to them as well.
Is it worth trying to contact them again?
Rachel Warner.
We could, I mean, I think she's frustrated equally, I think she's also been trying to get information, which is why she contacted us.
If they have a lease coming to them, potentially it's just a date to work to.
Rachel Warner contacted me, I don't feel like reasonable, I contacted her again.
So it gives you a look at the future if they don't have that.
Find out whether she knows.
Yeah.
Right, I don't think we can add anything further to the surgery.
I'll follow up the letter and say, can we have, at least acknowledgement, it's, we have nothing at all.
She wrote to me originally. I'll read one.
To me, it seems incredibly unprofessional and also unsympathetic. People are worried about the future of the surgery in Felton. Nobody seems to care.
Well, we've seen this for
Before I
2
came,
years.
Yeah.
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah,
Possibly more.
Quite unbelievable, really.
yeah, and just stand for running registered with a different surgery.
Right. Item 7, report from County Councillor Thorne. Have we had anything? No. Committees and working groups. To appoint an additional councillor to each of Felton Cemetery Joint. Mr. Councillor MacDonald, you were provisional. You've now stepped up to a full-time councillor.
Yeah, I'm happy for that.
Right.
Do you want to appoint a replacement substitute then?
Would be a good idea, because we always need 2. Could we have volunteer? Actually, I'll step forward myself on that one. Property Management Committee, currently councillors John and again Andy. Chris, you were provisional. Are you happy to step forward?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. And anybody prepared to be a reserve, provisional, backup, whatever?
Ian, do you want to join
Yeah,
us
I'll
on
join.
Monday?
Thank you. Finance Committee, currently Eileen and Richard. Gemma, you were back up with.
I think I'm
Finance committee.
I thought you were going to have to step up, I think.
Adam has it equally.
Good, move on.
Thank you.
Did we want a substitute for that? Oh, well, we've already got
What's
Gemma
that?
for substitute for that.
No mistake.
But you're on standby, are you?
To receive update from committees and working groups on matters and actions, whatever's progressed. As far as the rec field is concerned, the new contracts where Royal Oak have been cutting round the outer edges where they weren't cut before has done very well. the grass is making a good comeback. He's paying a lot of attention to round the edges of the mugger. There is a problem with the molehills, which is a bit out of our hands at the moment. The work on the mugger. There's not much.
There are things in the offing. I'm
Yes.
still waiting to hear that. I need to continue to harass a certain individual to get some information off them. But there has been progress over the last few weeks with regards to making a decision of where we're going to go with that, which I should be ready to go through at the next referendum committee.
We're going to sit down this week, aren't we, Jen?
Yeah, I was talking to Councillor.
Yeah.
Any other working groups? Property management?
No, they all got rearranged, unfortunately, due to the Queen. So we need to schedule, we've got a couple to schedule in, so we need to schedule that in, and also the Finance Committee. Because they should both happen during that period.
Cemetery as well.
Cemetery, sorry, yeah.
To agree proposal from Councillor Walton that committee minutes and agendas are circulated to councillors.
Yeah, this was a really good suggestion, so
I would
it just
expect,
comes.
suspected them.
I know, but we just haven't ever done it really, have we? So I think it's a good
A
thing to
number of
start.
people have asked me about things happening on the rec or things that I, like property management, that I haven't got any actual details of. So rather than saying, well, something I make it up, I thought it would be better if we
It also
actually all
means
were circulated and we had an informed.
And when we have this item, it means that people will already be sort of informed what's going on, and we'll just pick up the highlights. So we'll start doing that
I would add that working groups are not obliged to produce
minutes,
minutes, etc.
when they may wish to.
Yeah. Okay, standing item, parish representation at meetings. Well, since we've lost Tony Hood, that won't have been happening. Do we know how his position gets?
No, and I think we checked this, I think Greg and I checked this originally and were told by now that it wasn't a Felton Parish Council appointment. But Councillor Walton has volunteered to go to the AGM this weekend, is that right?
It's nobody else.
Nobody else volunteered, just yourself.
Nobody else wants to go out, so.
And I have already raised the issue with Nal because he had already tendered his resignation there as well. And so the new NALC officer was going to just check the situation and let me know if it was anything to do with Felton, but he agreed, he thought it was resolved by the meeting itself, rather than by this.
Well, I will be there. Originally I thought my dates would clash, but I will be able to get there and meet Graham Poppy, our local man.
As I understand it, Tony represented more than just our
Yeah, I think he was
parish council.
area.
Didn't he do?
So I think
Newton and
there was like they're grouped in little clusters, and I don't think we. That's why I don't think it was our nomination. I think it was like done. You know, you
cluster thing.
not to say that we couldn't nominate somebody, but it wouldn't necessarily be like it's not our appointment. We could nominate somebody.
Right, 10. Standing item update from Northampton Police. No.
So can I just ask a question? There was an incident, not last weekend, the weekend before, at the bus stop up here. Two police car and police van blocking in the bus with blue lights on. So it might be worth a question asking why wasn't it noted. I can probably check back the date of it. I think it might have been, I don't know if Gail was on the call, so I think so. It was maybe
Right, the last one.
Saturday or within the last couple of weeks, yeah.
Sorry, can I just ask a clarification? Claire, you're saying that you haven't actually had any information from them, not that you haven't had, that there hasn't been any incidents?
No, that they haven't sent me anything.
Right, so there
It
may be
seems
an
quite-
Yeah, maybe, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just we've not
And I
seen,
think
yeah,
they always sort of did it back. It was quite. It always looked back quite a long way. So that this would fall into the next report anyway, but I'll chase it up.
Red phone box. Have we jumped through all the hoops?
Well, yeah, so the phone box, they've said, NCC have said that they don't think it needs any planning, but we could all obviously pay more money and they would say that in some sort of more formal way. So we got free application advice. We can ask for a legal development certificate, which will be a bit of official paper that said we don't need planning. I don't know if it's worth doing that.
What the costs are.
What did we say, 120? Can't remember.
And then again, what's the time frame of getting that? Because we're getting into
I
the
don't know,
stage where it's
it's
basically good to get the works carried out.
Is this
before the
pre-app?
So we've done the pre-app and they came back and said, on the basis of the information provided, they don't think they're happy that we really need a planning consent for it. If we want to have a bit of paper to rely on to say, you know, this development was lawful, you can apply for a certificate of lawful development from them at an additional cost.
Right.
So it's whether we want that bit of
That
paper or not.
email not
yeah, but the
suffice.
No, because the email's not part of, you know, it's pre-application advice, it's not a certificate, but so I don't know whether,
Would Councillor Thorne advise?
I think you just rely on what it's said.
The thing is, we're not changing it from a red phone
No,
box.
no.
It's not as though it's going to come back blue.
Okay.
The key thing here is it's a restoration to restore it to its former glory and what it should be. It's not as if we're planning on taking it away and not putting it back. It is still going to be a red phone box on the bridge when we're finished.
Yeah.
So I think we need to press on with this.
Yes.
I would say so, you know. I did see an email that there was a group of people wanted to carry out a restoration free of charge. Did anybody else see it?
Yeah, that's right.
Where was it?
Was it an email?
I think it was an email, wasn't
It
it?
was Facebook,
Was it on Facebook?
it was on a Facebook
Alright.
message. It was following the
There was a member of the,
bus game on the bridge
Yeah.
in order to raise funds to have it renovated.
Yeah.
Members of the public came forward and said that the squad that worked at the airfield would have done it, would be prepared to do it free of charge. And they had sent an email to the parish council.
They didn't send an email, I don't know. I got it.
None of us are aware of it, so.
I think I got asked by somebody else via Facebook to say, or was it you that said, somebody passed me a Facebook message, it didn't even come direct, it came via somebody else. And I think I contacted you to say it was being offered, but I've never had any, I've never had any formal email that I've, you know, that I'm aware of.
It was correspondence between Neil Skelton.
it was Neil Skelton.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't Neil, I don't know, was it Neil that had messaged me originally?
No, it was Richard Pike that had messaged.
I don't think it was me, he didn't send, I don't think.
But we've got no timescale for when he sent an email, so it's very difficult to track it down. But given that it would cost us nothing, do we need to at least consider what they could do? They are renovating historic aircraft, so they are used to doing old things. But
I still
The
think we
only-
need to take responsibility ourselves. As John's done with the
It would be dodgy without having a written undertaking that they would accept responsibility for the whole job. It's all
I
very
don't think
well.
we've had any dialogue,
No.
so it's very difficult to say.
Yes.
Oh, the
This, that,
email,
or the other.
I think the email went to Christine Prout, because she was the person that contacted me.
All right.
Sorry, do we want to go back to
I
the
think the
start?
email was sent to Christine,
Or do we proceed with the works?
I'm in favour of sticking with the professionals.
You know, they've already offered guarantees on the work.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Sandblast,
generally paying somebody to do work, you get the job that you're paying someone for.
bringing sandblasting equipment on site is not something many people can do. It's what's needed.
I agree.
We spoke about the difference between getting it done on site and the possible damage to the surface of the bridge by removing it, taking it elsewhere to have it restored, and the conversation, if I remember, went along the lines of we didn't want to risk damaging the surface because it is fairly well attached to the ground. But you know, you can't. We must consider that someone's willing to do it for free. So,
Is it worth it? Could it be then, is it worth a telephone call Richard Pike at Airfield if it's part of him, his workshop team, then conversation, say, is this true, you've offered this? And then have, you know, we have a quick meeting, proper meeting to discuss it.
I think we have to, because we're spending money,
spending
and
quite a bit of money.
I think we have to explore that possibility. I think if we can communicate with them to say, this is what we're currently considering, what would you know, even the thing is, even if it is just out of courtesy, because if they have offered this in any kind of way, shape or form, we at least need to acknowledge the fact that it has been offered and to say that we've considered it and things. And then we can say that this is what we consider at the moment, the reasons why we think we're going to be going with this, the service that we've been offered, give them the opportunity to say we would be able to match that, you know, the likelihood is we are going to go with what we've been offered from the company that John's organised, but I think we have to acknowledge it and we at least have to have some form of discussion with them, even out of courtesy.
can we try to get you? Sorry, Richard.
From the earlier discussion, I got the impression that we haven't actually had an offer, the council.
Not directly.
There's nothing's gone directly to the council.
Nothing's come
So,
direct to us.
you know, if somebody wants to make an offer, they need to
Yeah, I wouldn't
start
do,
on a
but I
formal
wouldn't-
basis.
But I
to
think
the
whether he
council.
thinks he has,
He thinks he has.
And what I'd hate to do
Discussions
is
that happen.
if we get it renovated and things, and then for him to say, I would have done that for free, and he wouldn't have been spending public money, and for members of the community to get upset about that wouldn't be an ideal situation. So I think we at least need to follow
I've got an email
up,
address for him.
have a conversation with him, and then see where it goes from there.
Okay,
Well,
as a proposal,
But we definitely need an offer, a formal offer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we're just going to be
Yeah, we need to get that wrapped up quickly.
as a proposal then, it is that we pursue this to find the individuals who are prepared to help.
Well, I would say that the offer needs to go to both the chair and the clerk, rather than just.
Well, I don't know.
In the first instance, we are putting the professional work on hold while we investigate what's available.
They do more than just aircraft. They do more than just aircraft, the airfield.
And given having seen some of the restorations they've done in the aircraft flying over, the quite spectacular work they're doing.
Are we happy that we put them to work?
I don't think it doesn't need to be on hold, even if it's just a matter of fact over the next few days, we email Richard and say, we've heard that this offer was made, we're currently planning to go down this route, however, we just wanted to explore the potential there. He might come back and say, I'm not going to be able to do the service that they said, he might say otherwise, but I don't think we can't not explore it.
I can email him, that's fine, I've got an email address for him.
So it sounds like one of the requirements to do it on site versus it not to do.
Right.
Like
Can
something we can do.
Can we,
That might be the thing that rules it out.
yeah, or can we put a time limit on it and saying that, obviously we'd be keen, obviously, if you want to do this with the community, however, if we haven't kind of established anything with you by this date, we need to get this work undertaken, because it's been going on for long enough, if we could put that in. Yeah?
Yeah.
Mr Chairman, may I just a point about a few of the WI ladies were just concerned about the internal structure that was put in when the phone box was renovated a few years ago. And I think we've sort of said to the ladies that John was aware of this and, the sort of all the gubbins where all the bits and paper go. So it's just if you bring somebody else in, it's fine, it's up to yourselves, just to make sure that they are aware that element is, I think it's removable and then put back, but yeah.
I think in any case there would have to be quite a involvement by
us, and I'm happy to assist with that, because it has to still be a useful info box when we're finished, and there's absolutely no point in damaging something on the inside that's doing a good job.
Yeah, no, it was, yeah.
So yeah, that would, in any case, I'll make sure that happens.
Yeah.
Thank you. Tree inspections. To consider the quote received from Tillier Tree Consultancy with reactions. This originated in July. Is this a case of, are we happy to go ahead with this quote?
I think so, because we've had a number of quotes come in and they seem to be matched best what we wanted to achieve, which was an initial survey by a professional that could then map out trees to then keep an eye on, tag them, you know, so, well not tag them, but like give them a code or a reference number so that we could have an action plan going forward. And looking at the example that you sent through, I think that is certainly what you talked about obtaining. I mean, we could go back to the other companies, but they weren't really offering what we wanted.
I thought we made a decision in principle which in fact we are going to go with. But presumably it sort of got stuck in the machinery of the
Did we not have we had a to and fro because one of the companies that had been in contact with us had said, oh well, I'll do this bit for free at the start, but then I want you to guarantee that I'll get the work. And when I went back, I just they didn't respond to that suggestion. So because I went back and said obviously we can't agree that, but I don't think we're prepared to quote on that basis. So
I think it's a really good idea to move it on, especially because we're coming into the windy and rainy season again. So I think we need to move on this.
Agreed.
Yeah.
All those in favour?
I'll let you know if there's a change to the amount, but I would think it would be a huge change. If it wasn't.
Jubilee tree. I know nothing about this. John?
As you'll remember, the Scott and Laura Clare, who very graciously offered the memorial tree, they are about to become very, very busy in the next couple of weeks because their new business venture is due to open. I have mentioned that it needs doing, and certainly Thurston's memorial tree looks great and has been done. I will do my very best to have it planted before the next meeting, but we still need to get an X on the map to know exactly where we're going to put it, because then we can get it done.
In terms of actual tree planting, isn't it best done when it's dormant? So
well, it's cold enough now, and it's going to be wet enough that it should be fine.
Okay. But would it have to be before the regular meeting, or could it be before December?
Well, it's just been.
I know
It's going to be a coronation tree.
if they commit to a date,
The thing is,
but we need somewhere to.
we're really good at procrastination, and
we
what
are.
we need is a point in Felton where we're going to plant it, and we need a plan to get it done. Scott and Laura are incredibly busy, and in which case it might be that some of us have to get involved and actually go out with a shovel and dig a hole. But let's just get it done.
I'll tell you, he wouldn't go out with a shovel. Thorne, he likes a nice road, doesn't he?
Well,
I'll probably get a special silver one for the job.
I'll contact them this week and I'll try and get a date and I'll get it sensibly.
But how do we get the spot to put it?
Where we need to decide, because there's been several places suggesting at various points.
What about where we were going to have a doctor's surgery? Might as well use it where we've got it.
Well, funny you should say that. There is a bit of the land was unused in the plan. There's a bit at this end.
That triangle, that triangle that they...
Behind the notice board.
Yeah, do you mean a triangle?
The triangle that leads us half into us.
That's a helpful question.
There is nowhere in the middle of the
Did we
village,
not
is there?
decide on what was classed as the wet spot?
Yeah.
Where the other one was down.
We're talking about it, we'll all go in.
Yeah.
If we can point that out on a map, that'll be grand.
Go put the stake in the ground.
Just need
Did
to.
the drainage issues get resolved with that spot though?
No.
No, I was just saying you just need to be aware There's a covenant on that you're not supposed to plant trees, so I don't know why there's trees on there because of the drains running under
Yeah.
there.
But we're talking,
Just,
yeah,
just so you're aware.
we're talking about the outside bit where there was that weird hole for a while, aren't we?
Yeah.
Well,
Oh, you're talking outside the fence.
Yeah, we are.
Sorry, I was talking about. I
I
thought
know,
you were
I
talking fence.
know.
So apologies.
I think there's been several points suggested, but the latest was that area outside the fences where there was the little.
That had one tree.
Could we have 2 or 3 people to look at it?
Should we just go out after?
No, it was the one with the light.
It's too dark.
How was your
no
thought back?
idea where you-
I have no idea what lay by
Fuck that, we have.
far side of the Coca Water entrance.
So your entrance, if you're coming out of your estate, the right hand side where they had that weird little like hole in the ground for a while.
just past Ludwig.
The tree not snapped.
Yeah,
yeah,
It's
true.
right
Yeah,
beside-
where
yeah.
tree was,
Yeah.
there was a tree there.
Is that, Greg, is that where you're thinking the covenant was?
No.
No, that was
talking
inside.
about the big
But where that hole was where they dug through the cables, which is why they had a big hole there because they were repairing all the cables, and it does get boggy. But no, I thought you were on about inside behind the notice board, so
Right.
that's so I apologise.
So I will contact them and I'll try and get a date plan, but failing that, we will get a working party together and we will get that done.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be wet enough now that, you know,
Anywhere.
we don't have anything to worry about.
So one of the original trees as well.
Oh yes, the Northumberland County Council free tree scheme. I looked in. I got a free tree last year personally, and I looked into it and it said any spare trees that the council may have had would be up for grabs for a good cause or organisation. Now, I sent an email back saying I'm a member of Felton Parish Council and we have a biodiversity team and we also have a few climate action nature groups in the area. If they had any spare trees, could I have some please? And I got an email back to say that on the 10th of October I can have 100.
Wow.
So 100,
So
100
there's going to be a
saplings.
lot of tree planting opportunities.
So lots of X's then.
Well, how many coronations and
They are cell-grown, little, quite small
They do
saplings.
really well.
They do
though.
really well.
Oh my God. Really? Yeah. They're right at the top of the plastic and they're pretty brilliant.
So I will obviously wait until I have the trees, but then I'll,
And I think it's usually a mix of native species, so.
yeah, there's a mix of
Yeah. If
And
there's
the different sizes, because there's edgy places.
So we just need to
So
see what we get and then
see what we're getting, and you know, if everyone's in agreement, we'll contact, well, the biodiversity team can have a think about it, and we'll see what we can do. There are some bits of hedging in Felton that could be doing with sprucing up the certain bit in the Wrexham field. 100 trees actually doesn't, 100 saplings doesn't go as far as you think.
It really doesn't.
Have already
especially if it's hedging, especially if it's hedging something.
Plant 250 from
250.
Well, that was 200 that went into our hedge. When we had it done.
Right.
So when I get them, I will send an email out to say that I'm in possession, and we'll make a plan.
Brilliant.
okay. Benches. Treatment of benches and agree any actions. The basic problem is which are parish councillors, parish council owned, and which are WI owned, and which were privately owned and have been forgotten, etc.
I thought all of those ones out there were effectively now gifted to the parish council.
Yeah, those are the ones out the front there are no longer maintained by the families, we checked. So those are definitely, we can do those. The 5 down Main Street, so outside the doctors, outside Alan Culbert's house, outside, well opposite the Ring Fox, that like, so all the ones in the centre of the village, they are apparently maintained by the parish council, although there is a volunteer who's always done the painting of them for free on behalf of the parish council. Whether or not he's still, you know, continuing with that, I don't know. So those 5 are sort of being maintained to a point. These ones, he doesn't do these ones, which is why they've not been done. And then there's a collection of random other little ones. There's some plastic ones, so they're great. They're not needing anything. But there's the one, I think there's a plastic one opposite the bottle banks. There's the one at Windy Gap, which is a plastic one. Then there's the one halfway down Walton Lane. Now I think that's wood. Or is that
No, it's
something
been
else?
replaced, it's been replaced.
Oh, okay. So it's basically the ones in the centre.
One they've built.
It's mostly the ones in the centre that are the issue, and as I say, there's 5 of them maintained by this gentleman, and then there's the ones outside here which aren't, so they're the ones we really need to focus on. But it would be
Which Suzanne's just said that she'll
Ask
or we
them.
have to get that.
But I think it would be good, and I mean, ages ago when we first discussed benches, we put something in the bridge to say, if you're connected to a bench in any way, get in touch with people, and it was only Alan that came back about the ones he maintained. There's also the one at the top of Church Bank, outside the Buicks, opposite the church. I don't know who that one belongs to,
It belongs to the people who lived in the lodge.
but I don't think anybody's maintaining that now.
No.
And then we've got the odd,
Yes.
and then there's also like the odd bench seat, and like just simple bench on the footpaths. Again, I'm assuming that they're on the footpaths, they're on a landowner's land, and they are looking after them. But I don't, like, do you know what I mean? Like on the groves, there's a couple of plain bench seats. Out towards the A1 there's one. And I'm assuming that they all get looked after by the landowner.
Will that include the ones on the loop?
The ones on the loop were put in by the landowner there, and I believe are going to be maintained by him, but because he never mentioned them to us. And then there's the new one that the allotment holders put outside the allotments in memory of somebody. I think that's a plastic one though. But I think we do need to have some sort of policy that if benches are put in, almost like a handover document, so that we can add it to a list, formal list that we know. Because I think the problem is when a family has been, and I know that a lot of families want to do it, want to maintain them, because it's a connection, isn't it? But then it becomes difficult when the families are themselves become older or they move away, and then you have to try and track them down. You don't want to offend people by taking over them without checking, and it's just so we would need, I think, at least if they're not handing it over to us, then at least having contact details so we can get in touch with them easily would be useful.
Yeah.
I don't think any of the ones in the centre now are maintained by families.
I've heard snippets about people prepared to get their hands dirty and go and do it. Is that dealing with the problem? I've lost track.
You mentioned Alan, who
Yeah.
paints the ones in the middle of the village?
Yeah.
Because if he wants to carry on,
Yeah, and I think
Then we don't need
he's
other
happy
hands,
to, so I don't think we need to do those. It's just the ones outside here which are
yeah, which-
include them in his collection that he looks after.
So if Suzanne's happy to ask the person that she was going to ask,
Yeah.
and then just let us know
So
either
then it's
way, otherwise we'll
Yeah.
find an alternative.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say, I'll message it off to the
Fantastic,
Yeah.
thank you very much.
Thanks. So I think we just need to update. I mean, I've got a list of where they all are.
Right.
Does anybody know what they've been done with? Because in the past, so they can do similar sort of.
To be honest, it needs proper scraping on
It
it.
does,
It's
but
quite
what-
heavy.
Yeah, but
I
what
don't
do you
know
know on them
the
done?
ones on because the ones on the main street, he's definitely used something different this time than he's used previously because it was a much heavier.
Should we ask Alan what he's used on those so we can do
I'm
these?
just thinking, if you want them to be the same, but can't you tell you?
No, I think something, whatever would be an appropriate treatment. I don't think it needs to be the same because as I say, I think he's used something different. It was a lot. I don't know if it was maybe the weather, but it seemed to be a lot patchier on those ones this time. So not worry about trying to match it.
So do we know what's happening now?
Yes.
Right. Fly fishing,
We've done.
I think we chewed that. Correspondence, pages 13, 14. Everybody happy? Emails have come in, been answered.
And then we said we would consider the correspondence policy because originally that was a trial to see how it worked. I think it's been working really well from my point of view.
can I the previous meeting, which was an extra meeting or extraordinary meeting last Monday, we subsequently wrote to Tony Hood, ex-councillor Hood, and asked him to respond. And I don't see anything listed in the correspondence, and I don't actually see anything on the agenda.
No, he has responded, but only yesterday. So,
Oh, right. So are we going to be told what the response was?
yes. I'll send it round. It doesn't add really. I'll send it round.
Did we not say at the last meeting that we're going to have this on the agenda now?
But we're not. I thought we were just sending it. No, that last
Yeah,
week
it's
we
just
agreed that it would.
was agreed to just issue
That it would be
tomorrow.
issued a report to the police, and that anything he gave us would be sent with.
It was dependent on how that went.
Yeah.
As
And
we're
then
talking,
and then when I hear back that we've got the agenda for next time to get to do with any responses from the various people.
one item that has slipped through the net, which I will bring up, even though it's not on the agenda, but it's a correspondence item. Councillor Ling's request for an apology for problems with Tony and emails. It is accepted that Councillor Lings was quite justified when he stated that Councillor Hood appeared to be wrong with his email stating that he was totally and financially independent of John Hood Landscaping, as evidenced by the VAT registration document for JHL. We apologise if Councillor Lings felt his integrity was doubted by comments questioning his, Councillor Lings' statement on the matter.
Thank you.
Okay.
Go on, wait a minute.
I was, in case we were invited to make any comments, I was going to say that it should say something like the council accepts rather than it is accepted. That sort of passive voice statement doesn't really tell you quite what's happening. But so it is.
I will look. I will.
Yeah.
I'll just note the comment that you made that. Yeah. So sorry, just to go back, did you approve, are you happy to continue with the current correspondence going round to it? Is that how, yeah.
Items for next agenda.
No, you missed out planning.
Sorry.
You missed out planning.
And
17.
Not
yes,
presenting
sorry,
those.
John. Planning, ongoing planning matters, page 14, somewhere. 16 Riverside and 16 Riverside. A quick comment on what's going on. It doesn't really have, no.
I don't think
No
anyone
great
had any
concern to
particular
us.
concerns, no. Interestingly, was mentioned last time about the Gabby and baskets one
Yes.
being withdrawn. I think Anne was saying that it was you that said you thought it was within the permitted development. So they've sort of withdrawn the application because they've decided they don't need to, which seems.
I think we were advised it was permissive development.
So that's
Because
a bit.
the flood agency didn't object to them building up the side of the burn. So,
I think there's a problem there with who owns the bed of the burn as well. Anyway,
So I mean, I don't know. We can't really do anything about that if they've decided it's permitted development, unfortunately.
ongoing matters. Have we had any feedback on Leamington Lane bus shelter?
No, just waiting to get a meeting in with everybody.
Right. New surgery, we've covered the transfer of land. Empty property on Davison Avenue, that can be struck off now. Ramp at Riverside.
Oh, it's still wait for them sending me what they need to send me.
I think you had first one from that.
But not from Natural Good. The neighbours who said yes.
What do we need from Natural Good?
Permission. I don't, it's separate.
This must be nearly 18, and
This
this
is-
has been going on.
We have to do something about this.
It's hard, it's really dangerous.
Aside from anything else, it's the only disability or buggy friendly access
I
to the
will,
river.
I will.
And I blocked it off a year ago.
I know, I will chase on it, John.
It's embarrassing.
Plus
actually.
quotes that we've had for work done, or to be done, well, we're still on the date, we're gonna have to get the whole process done again.
Well, can we contact the people who gave us quotes to see if they're still,
Yes, I will.
or how far away they are? Because, you know, everything goes up in price, but if we can just keep correspondence going forward,
Yeah.
we might actually be able to get something done this year.
Yeah.
Second page, item 2020/22, drainage recreation field. Details, initial camera survey carried out. No, there was never a camera survey
Yes,
carried
there was.
out.
Yeah, there was. That was when he showed us the video.
I'm talking about when they dug, when they put the new inspection pit in.
That's
Yeah,
what it's-
it's-
They said they were going to do it. Sorry, apologies, I'm wrong. Um, 2020/25, that can be struck.
Which one? Traffic
Right,
calming.
traffic calming. Oh, yeah.
Inspections, yes. Employment contract, job descriptions, work in hand, we are putting our heads together on that. Correspondence policy, adopted.
Yeah.
Anyone got any further comments? Items for next agenda? We can catch them as they arise, if necessary.
Can we have the ramp and the phone box on again?
Yeah.
Just to make it
Yeah.
And the benches, I guess.
Yeah.
Can I also say here that the fence which comes from the end of Moortop Lane, the white fence going down, is in one atrocious state, and we need to contact the council as regards replacing some of the struts on it.
Yes, yeah, I agree, I thought that was name.
Or down from,
Yeah, the little white,
Yeah,
the little white.
But there's also huge bumps in the concrete which are dangerous as well. Where the picket fence comes down, where the struts go in, there's big chunks of.
Oh, on the little tiny chain wall, yeah. And yeah,
is that also council?
no, it's county council's.
Highways. Date of next ordinary meeting, 7th November. Part 2, resolution to exclude the public and the press. To talk about the clerk's salary and the details thereof. That will be obviously confidential.
Yeah, just point of order in terms of closing the meeting to the public and the press. There's been no further meetings since the Finance Committee last discussion on contracts, which was on Thursday, 14th of July. No minutes have been produced for this Finance Committee meeting. No draft contract has been published. No feedback has been given on the anonymous HR advice obtained. So how can FPC hold a closed session to discuss clerk issues without a generic draft contract having been produced, discussed and subsequently agreed?
Based on the internal auditor's findings. If you don't trust the internal auditor and his maths, we do.
Which I don't I actually don't know which maths you're talking about with the internal auditor. Can you expand on it?
Because we're not talking about the contracts, we're talking about the salary science by point, so the contracts don't need to be finalised to discuss that, do they?
Well, based on discussions that took place earlier, I've not seen any documentation to say that you're on a particular contract or a particular pay scale. On previous meetings, it all seems to be a grey area that hasn't been documented anywhere, which is why you were having meetings in the Finance Committee.
That was correct. But since then, details have been...
I haven't seen any details produced
Maybe
by...
you haven't, but we have, and the internal auditor has. And when this is completed, the whole lot, we're prepared to make the whole lot public.
So the internal auditor is currently in negotiations with yourselves relating to details of the clerk's salary arrangements.
We asked the internal auditor to review and check our clerk's calculations for all the back pay and up to date.
Well, I've put a question in about the £800 that was paid. You haven't answered the question.
The internal auditor has considered that, and I've got the right piece of paper here somewhere. You happy that I read all this out? This is Patrick's draft report.
Well, no, because I think we should announce this after it's been decided today.
Right.
I'm happy to disclose it afterwards, but I won't.
We will disclose it afterwards.
So, can I just ask then, so the figure that was given in, I think it was the February meeting where it was a bill of £800, that was described by the RFO as the back pay that was owing at the time, which was like a year's back pay at a rate of, I think it was say 1.4% or whatever. And that did not equate to the £800, which I think was the question that was raised. So the question that was raised has not been answered.
No.
How it was described at the time would equate to, I can't remember the salary.
Something like £122.
Yeah, so that's the question that relates obviously to something that's been asked previously, but that is now going to be discussed in the private session.
Yes.
I will quote you a small piece. Work performed to validate your underpay calculations. You provided me with copies of blah, blah, blah. This has enabled me to check the workings of the underpay spreadsheet between the periods supplied. Presuming my queried pay rate figure of 1442, which is the rate, yeah, I would confirm the underpay calculation of £818 to be correct.
Okay.
Unfortunately, there's no openness and transparency on anything you're doing with this.
Well, I will
This is
happy
confidential. We are dealing with personal data.
I think, Gary,
Hold on.
I think...
Within the challenge to this year's accounts, one of the items which has been accepted by the external auditor to look into is the £800 payment.
Yes.
Because I maintain it was an unlawful payment because it was never agreed by any committee or the parish council. However it is made up, it was never authorised. But payment was taken.
But I would say that, can I just say that as you will see from that letter from the PKF auditors, they have said that they wish us to supply them with relevant documents related to that payment, which they consider to be confidential. They've also commented on closed sessions relating to all salary discussions and staff salary discussions, because you raised that point with them, and they've said that they would expect staff matters to be discussed in confidential session. We can release, and I'm happy to agree a statement with the council and an answer to your question afterwards, but I'm not prepared to have the discussion in public when it concerns my personal data.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing the detailed spreadsheets you're talking about.
Well, you might not see the spreadsheet, you might see the result. And the evidence that supports it. But,
It may well be that I've actually already seen the spreadsheet.
Sorry?
It may well be that I've already seen the spreadsheet.
Well, that's unfortunate.
And I already know there's errors in it. But yous continue to accept what you're being told.
We're not. We're doing what we should do, which is to review the information, come to a decision, and then make public what can be made public.
Okay.
So would you please?
You know, I can't see that you can assert a right to know everything about the discussions that the councillors have. You have a right to know what decisions we make.
Can I ask what spreadsheet you've seen, Gary?
No, I'm not going to tell you. Ask the clerk.
Sorry?
Ask the clerk.
I'm sorry, I'm just at a loss as to the information you're talking
Well,
about.
why should I give you information when you give us nothing?
Because I'm asking you. I'm just asking you.
Well, which spreadsheet have you looked at?
You've just referenced the spreadsheet.
Correct.
You just said you've seen the spreadsheet.
I say I didn't. I said I may have seen it.
You may have seen it. Which one? Is there a title to it?
Well, you tell me.
I'm asking you.
How many are there?
Gary, I'm just asking what you've just referenced. I'm just asking what you've just referenced, that's all.
Well, I've described that I may have seen a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet I've seen has got errors in it.
A confidential.
Sorry?
A confidential spreadsheet.
Confidential.
Yes, I'm asking, have you seen a confidential spreadsheet?
I've potentially seen a spreadsheet.
We'll just get on with this deal.
Part one of the meeting is over.
Sorry, Chair. You haven't actually passed the resolution yet, so...
Do you understand what's happening?
I do, but you haven't actually passed the resolution yet to close it.
You can I have the resolution to close the meeting?
Thank you. If you don't want challenges, I just want to keep you on the right side.
You understand?